In Louisiana, fentanyl has turned whole neighborhoods into something out of a horror movie. People wandering the streets like the living dead, overdoses spiking faster here than almost anywhere in America. Families are burying loved ones every week while communities struggle to keep up with the devastation. But what if the real danger isn't just the drug itself? What if it's the system that allows this nightmare to spread? At first light, the streets of New Orleans look empty. But if you look closer, you see shapes moving in the shadows. A man stumbles down Canal Street, his arms thin and his eyes hollow. In the gutter near his feet lies a small plastic bag, torn open, with white powder still clinging to the inside. Across the city, this scene repeats itself over and over. In 2024, more than 120,000 people died from overdoses across the United States, and over 7 out of 10 of those deaths came from fentanyl. That means every 7 minutes, another life is gone. Louisiana stands out in the worst way. Here, deaths from fentanyl are almost twice as high as the national rate, hitting 45 for every 100,000 people compared to 33 across the country. In a small home in St. Tammany Parish, a mother sits at her kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. She speaks in a flat voice. "I found my son on the bathroom floor. He was only 22. They said it was fentanyl. I never even knew he was using." Her words hang heavy, the silence in the room louder than any sound. Stories like hers are told in every parish, from the city centers to the rural backroads. Each story begins the same way, with shock, with disbelief, with grief that feels too heavy to carry. Doctors warn that the drug is stronger than anything most users have ever touched. A few grains, no bigger than salt, can stop a heartbeat. Dealers mix it into pills made to look like pain medicine, or even Xanax, and young people buy them without knowing. The poison spreads fast because it is cheap, easy to hide, and quick to make. Police try to stop it at the border and ports, but more keeps slipping through, hidden in trucks, cars, and packages. On a map of Louisiana, red dots mark the overdose calls: Baton Rouge's north side, Shreveport's streets, New Orleans east. These dots grow each month, spreading like fire across a dry field. Families bury their children while politicians argue over budgets. Paramedics rush to the same houses again and again, pulling people back from death with doses of Narcan, only to return a few days later when it happens again. In some neighborhoods, it feels like the fight is already lost. People whisper that they are living in a city of walking dead. Drive east across the city and you will see houses still empty since Katrina, their windows broken and walls caved in. Some of these places are now used as shooting rooms, where people gather in secret. In Baton Rouge, along the I-10 corridor, cheap motels are filled with men and women who slip in and out chasing the high. In the lower Ninth Ward, children walk past syringes on their way to school. Poverty here is deep, and when jobs vanish or paychecks are too small to live on, the drug steps in to offer escape. A man in Shreveport leans against a brick wall, his voice cracked from years of use. "Everyone I knew was using. It's normal here. It feels like the whole block is numb." His words are not just about drugs but about life itself. When pain becomes the daily truth, numbness feels like relief. The storm that ripped through the city years ago left scars not just on the buildings but on the hearts of the people, and many never healed. Louisiana is a hub, a place where highways and rivers meet, where goods flow in and out from the Gulf. But that flow also brings in the pills. Counterfeits that look safe, stamped and colored to trick the eye, but filled with death. And when these pills land in neighborhoods already struggling with hunger, with low wages, with schools that cannot keep up, they take root. What happens when whole communities begin to accept overdoses as part of daily life? This question lingers like a shadow, as the problem spreads deeper. In the French Quarter, tourists laugh and dance, unaware that just blocks away someone is taking their last breath. In rural parishes where hospitals are miles away and ambulances take too long, families watch helplessly as time runs out. The state has few treatment centers, and those that exist are often full. Many fear asking for help because of the shame tied to drug use. Others do not even know where to begin. A woman in Baton Rouge, her arms folded tight, tells her story in a whisper. My cousin overdosed twice in the same week. The first time they saved him, the second time, he didn't make it. Around here nobody's surprised anymore. It's just what happens. Her words reveal a truth more haunting than statistics. The crisis has become part of daily life, woven into the fabric of the city. As dusk falls, the city lights flicker on, shining against broken glass and cracked sidewalks. The cycle continues, poverty feeding pain, pain feeding use feeding death. Louisiana stands at the edge of a cliff, with the ground crumbling beneath its feet. And the question remains, how long before the fall becomes too steep to climb back from? The French Quarter glows at night with music and lights, but just outside those crowded streets another story plays out. In the lower Ninth Ward, old houses stand empty with doors hanging open. Inside, broken floors are littered with spoons, needles, and lighters. The smell of mold and smoke fills the air. Here, fentanyl spreads like a shadow across lives already worn thin. It is not just the drug itself that grips this place, but everything around it: the jobs lost, the wounds left from storms, the fear of speaking out, the shame of being seen. Each part is tangled together like a web, catching people and holding them fast. Louisiana is not only struggling because of fentanyl's strength, the state carries heavy burdens that make it easier for the drug to take root. Poverty here is high, with families trying to live on less than $20,000 a year. In some parishes, more than 1 out of every 3 children lives in poverty. Parents work 2 or 3 jobs, yet still cannot keep food steady on the table. When hope feels out of reach, the pull of escape grows stronger. People turn to something that numbs the pain, even for just a short time. The wounds left by Katrina are still open. The storm tore apart homes and schools, but it also tore apart the trust that people had in systems meant to help them. Some never returned after leaving, and those who stayed often found themselves trapped in neighborhoods with fewer resources than before. Broken levees and broken promises left a mark that still lingers. A man in New Orleans East explains, "We lost more than houses. We lost our way of life. Some folks never got it back, and the drugs filled that hole." His words capture how disasters, long after the water is gone, keep feeding despair. In Baton Rouge, the North Side tells a similar story. Along Airline Highway, motels with flickering neon lights sit close to gas stations where people wait in cars trading bills for powder or pills. It is no secret. Everyone knows someone touched by it, but silence rules the air. Families hide the truth because they fear the shame. Churches pray for answers, but even there, whispers about who is using circle through the pews. The stigma becomes another chain. If speaking up means judgment, many choose to stay quiet until it is too late. The state's geography adds another layer. Louisiana sits as a major hub, with goods flowing from the Gulf ports up the Mississippi River and across I-10, which stretches like a spine through the state. What flows in for trade also provides hidden paths for drugs. Dealers use the same roads and waters to move their supplies, blending in with the endless stream of trucks and ships. This makes Louisiana more exposed than many other states, turning it into a target. In Shreveport, a man in recovery leans against the wall of a shelter. His voice is low, almost lost under the hum of traffic. "Everyone I grew up with used. It was normal. If you weren't using, you were the strange one." His words show how the crisis is not only about supply but about culture too. When drugs become the backdrop of daily life, the line between choice and survival blurs. Children grow up watching adults struggle, and soon they walk the same path, not because they want to but because it feels like the only road laid before them. Rural parishes face different but just as heavy problems. In some towns, the nearest treatment center is more than 50 miles away. Ambulances take long to arrive, and by the time help comes, it is often too late. The quiet fields and forests may look peaceful, but behind closed doors, families fight battles alone. A mother from Avoyelles Parish tells how her daughter overdosed in their kitchen. "We called for help, but it took 20 minutes. We tried to save her, but she was gone before they got here." Distance becomes another deadly weight, adding to the barriers that already exist. Even when help is near, the cost keeps many away. Medication that can stop cravings is hard to find and often expensive. Without insurance or steady income, people go without. Instead, they rely on each other in small ways, passing around Narcan, sharing test trips when they can find them. Grassroots groups try to step in, but the need far outweighs the supply. The question grows louder. What happens when communities begin to accept this as normal? In the lower Ninth Ward, a child steps carefully past a needle lying in the grass on the way to school. In Lafayette, a group of friends sit in silence on a park bench after burying yet another classmate. The signs are everywhere. Overdoses are not surprises anymore. They are expected. And when something so tragic becomes common, it changes how people see the world around them. Louisiana is caught in a web made of poverty, trauma, geography, and silence. Each strand pulls tighter as fentanyl spreads deeper. The crisis is not only about what people take into their bodies, but about the world that surrounds them. And unless that world changes, the drug will keep finding new ways to stay. At the edge of a Baton Rouge hospital, the red lights of ambulances flash against the night sky. Inside, the emergency room is crowded. Beds full, hallways lined with stretchers. Nurses move fast, carrying IV bags and syringes of naloxone. Some patients wake up coughing, gasping for air, while others remain still under white sheets pulled to their chins. For many of them, this is not the first time. Paramedics tell of being called to the same house 3, 4, even 5 times in a single month. Each revival lasts only until the next dose. And so the cycle spins on, relentless as a wheel. Families caught in this storm feel the weight in every part of their lives. A father in Shreveport explains how his paycheck disappears, not into savings or school supplies, but into covering the costs of treatment that never lasts. He shakes his head as he speaks, his hands trembling. We sold our car, then the furniture. We tried everything, but nothing sticks. She gets clean, then she falls back. His story mirrors hundreds of others. The drug does not only take lives, it drains bank accounts, breaks homes, and pushes children into foster care when parents can no longer keep them safe. The jails are full too. Small-time users picked up with crumbs of powder in their pockets spend weeks or months behind bars. But when they are released, nothing has changed. No treatment, no plan, no support. A woman in Baton Rouge remembers her own release. She sat on the curb outside the jail, the heat from the pavement rising into her legs. I was free, she said, but I had nowhere to go. Within a week I was back using. Her words reveal the sharp edge of the cycle: punishment without healing, freedom without guidance. The door swings open, but it leads right back to the same dark room. The children left behind grow up in silence. In Lafayette, 2 siblings sit in a foster home, their toys spread across the carpet. Their mother overdosed last winter, their father now locked away for possession. The older child, only 11, shrugs when asked about it. I don't remember much, he says, but his quiet eyes tell a different story, one of loss that may follow him for years. The crisis does not stop with the person using. It spreads outward, touching every hand that reaches for them. In the downtown streets of New Orleans, people stand hunched, their movements slow and stiff, eyes glazed as if sleepwalking. Locals call them zombies, not out of cruelty, but because it feels true. The sight is so common that many passers-by walk on without looking twice. When despair becomes the backdrop of daily life, it loses its power to shock. This acceptance is part of the trap. If no one is surprised, then no one demands change. Policy adds another lock to the chains. In many rural parishes, naloxone is hard to get, and when it is available, the cost is too high for families who can barely afford groceries. Medication that can ease cravings and help people heal is tightly limited. Only a handful of clinics offer it, and those clinics have long waiting lists. Some people drive hours only to be turned away. The message they hear is clear: help is not meant for everyone. A doctor in New Orleans sighs as he leaves his shift. He has seen too many bodies today, too many lives cut short. We patch them up and send them back out, he says. But the system is broken. We're treating wounds that will not close. His words echo the truth. The very tools meant to fight the crisis often keep it alive. Arrests without treatment, hospital visits without follow-up, policies that cut off rather than connect. Each failure adds to the cycle, feeding the fire it was meant to put out. The longer the wheel turns, the harder it is to stop. Every overdose weakens a body. Every relapse deepens despair. Families who lose one child often see another fall soon after. The grief itself becomes a trigger, leading others in the family to use, to cope, to escape. What began as a single thread of loss grows into a net that wraps around whole communities. This is not just a story of people making mistakes. It is a story of a system that crumbles under its own weight, leaving those inside with no way out. The drug poisons the body, but the cycle poisons the world around it, making healing seem impossible. And so the question rises like a dark tide. How do you break a chain that has wrapped itself so tightly around every part of life? In a small community center in New Orleans East, folding chairs are set in a circle. The walls are painted bright yellow, though the paint is chipped in places. A group gathers here every week, some fresh from the streets, others months into recovery. The air smells faintly of coffee and fried food from the kitchen next door. A young woman speaks, her voice steady though her hands shake. "I've been clean 6 months," she says. "I never thought I could do it, but I'm still here." The people around her clap softly, some smiling, some with tears in their eyes. This room is one of the few places where hope feels stronger than fear. Across Baton Rouge, new programs are trying to push against the weight of the crisis. At a bus stop downtown, a bright blue vending machine stands out. But it does not sell chips or soda. Inside are small boxes of Narcan, free to anyone who needs it. A man in a worn baseball cap takes one, sliding it into his pocket with relief. "This saved my brother last week," he explains. "I'm keeping another one close, just in case." The idea is simple, but in a city where overdoses happen daily, it can mean the difference between life and death. Mobile clinics now drive through rural parishes, painted vans carrying doctors, nurses, and counselors to towns too far from hospitals. They park near churches or schools, opening their doors to anyone who walks up. A mother from Avoyelles Parish steps inside, her young son holding her hand. She leaves with medicine that will help calm her cravings, something she could not have gotten without driving hours before. Her eyes glisten as she says, "For once I don't feel forgotten." In places where distance once meant despair, these vans bring a lifeline. Peer support groups are also rising, run by those who know the pain firsthand. In Lafayette, a man named Jerome sits at a picnic table in a park, talking with 3 others who gather each week. He used for more than a decade, lost his home, and nearly his life, but now he helps others stay on track. "I can't change the past," he says, "but I can walk with someone through the storm." His presence proves that healing is possible, and seeing someone who has made it through gives others reason to believe they can too. Other states offer lessons as well. In Rhode Island, every prison provides medication-assisted treatment for inmates, a move that cut overdose deaths by almost 2/3 among those released. In Vancouver, supervised injection sites let people use drugs under watch, with nurses ready to step in if something goes wrong. No one dies there from overdose. These programs are not perfect, but they show that change is possible when bold steps are taken. Louisiana has been slower to follow, but some leaders are now pointing to these models, arguing that waiting any longer will cost more lives. A father in New Orleans, clean for 18 months, stands with his young daughter at a playground. She runs up the slide laughing while he watches, his eyes full of pride. "The only reason I'm still here," he says, "is because someone gave me a second chance." That's what people need. Another chance. His words capture the truth that solutions must go beyond punishment. Recovery requires care, patience, and belief in people who have been written off too many times. Change will not come only from doctors or laws. It must also come from the ground up, from families, churches, schools, and neighbors. Housing, jobs, and mental health support must stand beside treatment, because no one heals in isolation. A roof overhead, food on the table, and someone to call when nights get dark are as vital as medicine. Without these, the cycle will keep pulling people back. With them, the cycle can be broken. As the sun sets over the Mississippi River, the light glitters on the water like small sparks. It feels like a reminder that even in a place shadowed by loss, there are still points of brightness. Louisiana's story is not finished. The crisis is real, deep, and painful, but so is the chance to turn. Communities have begun to show what is possible, and more could follow. And now the question turns to us. If this crisis touched your family, what kind of support would you want in place? How would you want your community to respond? These are not questions for politicians alone, but for everyone who calls this state home. The drug has built a city of walking dead, but it does not have to stay that way. Together with courage and compassion, the chains can be broken, and life can return to the streets where despair once ruled.